Okay, so let's get the discussion started. I have some questions here, and we'll kind of get the juices flowing here. I found going through the Ascension process that we're dealing with certain challenges, and that can be hitting up against like the controlling resistant ego, our low vibration, low frequency, dense frequency, pushing against inertia. We could be stuck in victim mentality. So there's things that we become aware of as we start to go through this process. Being entangled in the 3D matrix. This is a time matrix, it's an enslavement matrix. So once you start to become aware of this and know it's your current hologram, your current existence, how do you shift that? So my question to you is if you have any tips to share with the audience of how you deal with these challenges, how you transcended these challenges. I'm going to start with you, Susan.
Well, I'm a big fan of meditation and prayer. That's, as far as I'm concerned, meditation and prayer is the panacea of all ills. And also it's a way for us to break through resistances, to break through the veil, because we believe that we are separate from God. That's our main false belief that has kept us enslaved in the ego mind. So we believe that God is out there somewhere far away, impossible for us to experience, and that we are these lowly kind of worms crawling around on the earth, and that God is this great, fabulous thing that's far, far away, and we are nothing. So the reality is, if we can break through this barrier, this veil that has separated us from our true nature, which is divinity, our true nature, which is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-loving. In fact, that's who we are. Our true self is, in India they call it the Atman, which is the I am self, the mighty I am presence, which is God incarnate in human form and human flesh. In fact, that's who we really are. So if we can break through that veil simply by intending to walk through it. Okay, so let's say we're on a pathway. We're on the pathway of evolution, let's call it that. So we're going up a step ladder, and we're going higher and higher and higher up the step ladder. But we don't realize that outside of this step ladder, there is our true divinity, our true nature. So no matter how high we climb on the stepladder, we never seem to reach the goal of spiritual enlightenment. That's because there isn't a goal of spiritual enlightenment. The reality is that we can jump off that stepladder at any moment and merge with divinity, merge with our true nature, become who we really are. And it's a matter of just surrendering to that, allowing ourselves to experience that. And a simple way to do that is just to sit down and just allow the divine energy to flow through you and out through your heart to the universe. If you practice that for two minutes, 3 times a day, you would get into a habit of experience yourself as oneness, as one with God. And so this is just a little technique that you might experiment with. That is, just allow that divine energy to flow through you and out through your heart for a few minutes, a few times a day.
Okay, thank you. Maureen.
I'd like you to pay attention to your language. When I got off a plane after a long flight early in the morning, coming from the West Coast and getting off the plane in Madison, I saw a woman that was working for the airline, and she recognized me and called me by name. And that particular day, I had to get on a plane 2 hours later and fly to the East Coast. And I had chosen that particular day to do all that travel because I had someone important I wanted to see on the West Coast, and that was my window. So when I get off the plane, I'm very conscious of the fact that I've got a huge day ahead of me and I've got to get a lot done. And I'm worried about all of that. And even though I don't normally talk this way, sometimes when I tell people how to help them through a tough day, I refer to it as the day from you know where. And I don't use that word anymore. But in that moment, I did. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and we were both kind of in shock. And I said, well, actually, I'm having a day of heaven on earth because I'm flying with United. And we both laughed, and I walked away. Well, I came home, and there was a flood in my basement, and I had a mailing to do and a bank deposit to make, and my neighbor came over and helped me with the flood. I called the plumber. He came when he said he would. My higher self told me where to find the hole in the wall to drill where he could actually see it, and there were only 2 small holes, and they were right next to each other. And everything went extraordinarily smooth, and as everything is being wound up, and I only had to give the plumber $100, I get a phone call, and it's United Airlines, and they say, the flight you're booked on is actually an hour late. Both of our flights into Chicago are an hour late, and if you take the flight you're booked on, you will miss your connections to the East Coast. Is there any way you can make your flight, can you get on the earlier flight, and then we can put you on the connections? And keep in mind, I had already changed my flight to catch the later one to make room for all this craziness at my house. And I said, actually, my suitcase is packed and it's in the car, and I am only 15 minutes from the airport. I think I can do that. So I made my flight, and I'm sitting on the plane, and I'm looking around thinking, oh my God, that is so amazing. How did everything go so smoothly like clockwork? How did I pull that off? And my guide said, you asked for a day of heaven on earth. And I thought, wow, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. So then the next time I had a day filled with stuff, and we all have those days that we're trying to accomplish way more than we should, I thought, well, I'm going to ask for a day of heaven on earth. And sure enough, it happened just like magic. And the second time, when it happened so magically, I thought to myself, I'm not waiting till I have a busy day again. I'm asking every day, and so can you.
There you go. Thank you, Maureen. All right, Gordon.
I think all of us have probably had experiences where we have contacted that higher level of being and experienced it flowing through us and radiating out to the world. And then after that, we come back to our daily life, where that energy may not be flowing as completely as it is at those high moments, and we find that we do have resistances come up. And they come up all the time, all kinds of resistances. The thing that has helped me more than anything is to examine the 3 dimensions of our 3-dimensional being, which is our superconscious, our soul, our conscious self, and our subconscious. Most of the issues that come up, in my experience, and I work with people a lot with this, are from the subconscious. They are patterns that are there very deep, and many of you know all about this. They're very present there with us. One of the reasons we have resistance is because parts of our subconscious believe that if we have this higher divine state and we walk around in this all the time, what's going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. Those parts of my subconscious that have a very practical bent, who have certain patterns that they're using to try to make us feel safe, make me feel safe, will say, oh, we can't have this because I'm going to lose control. Or my perspective is not going to be honored. So what I have worked with a lot is actually communicating, learning to really love my entire subconscious, to treat it as a conscious being with whom you want to have a loving relationship, with whom you want to communicate, make it your friend, co-creative partner in fulfilling your higher purpose. When you start to treat your subconscious that way, it completely changes. And when it understands that it lives all these parts of you, your inner mother, your inner father, your inner ex-husband, wife, old enemy, past life, people that you still are, all of those parts of you start to realize they live within you, in your subconscious. And when they understand that that's true, that means they have the same soul as you do. That means they have the same soul purpose as you do. And therefore, their highest purpose is to help you fulfill your shared soul purpose as a team. that process and then begin to communicate with them what you need to change in order to help them really help you. Sharing that information with your subconscious is like a revelation to your subconscious, because all your subconscious in its normal way of functioning is be safe, secure, maximize pleasure, and minimize pain. It's very simple. And that is the way they function. When you give it this whole higher soul perspective of who it is, where it is, the truth of its existence, it transforms, it changes. And then you can open up a dialogue, especially if you approach it with love.
Yes.
Lots and lots of love and appreciation for all that it's been doing all these years to try to help you when, for the most part, you didn't even know what it's doing, or you try to suppress it, or you try to control it. So that process of developing ultimately a beautiful co-creative relationship where your soul writes the score of your life, it is the composer of the symphony of your life purpose. You as the conscious self are the conductor of your life, and your subconscious parts are all the players in the orchestra. And you get them all working together with their rightful function, and everything goes much more smoothly. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay. All right, let's go to Laura.
So I have found the way to really, work energy and bring ourselves to an energy of ascension is to plug into the mind.
Wait. Let him fix it.
Is it working?
Maybe use somebody else's.
Use someone else's,
Not working.
Laura.
Want to try this one?
I think he said it's working.
I think I might have leaned on the button. Okay. Is to really pay attention to every moment. I mean, from the minute we wake up to the minute we fall asleep at night, we get everything that we need to know what we need to work on. We carry the antidote, and we also carry the ancestral patterns and the archetypal inheritances that allow us to know exactly what we need to work with. So just like we inherit things from our biological family, our job is to not digress or emulate those patterns if they're not healthy, but to take it to the next level. A lot of people say as above, so below, but I like to say as below, so above. We're a lot more influential than we can imagine, so we're not at the mercy of everything that's going on, and it's actually the symptoms of our body, the adversities, that give us exactly what we need to shift the planet. And so if we understand there are 12-tree grid, which is our DNA, is connected to the 12 stargates, our 7 glands are connected to the 7 chakras, and when we move into these galactic chakras and we begin to bring them into our bodies, we activate our glands in a whole new way. Everything that we're dealing with is programmings, it's infiltration, and so our bodies tell us exactly what needs to be healed, but it's not just personal. It affects the whole of creation, it affects the whole planet. So if you're a nerd like me and you're rubbing your feet, you're like, okay, I'm handling the Cyprus Stargate in Kauai and southern France, or you're pressing a PowerPoint of your body and it's like, or there's a particular time of day where you might have a symptom. It's like, okay, well, what's that all about? And how does that relate to the multidimensions? And what battle am I trying to heal within my body? What ancestral pattern? And so if you don't want to get all geeky like that, you can look at your belief systems and start to ask yourself, what is creating this block? What's creating this constriction? And value your standards and really love yourself, even if it's different from what others think. It's really about respecting our own boundaries and our truth and working with that until we feel comfortable to make a shift instead of try and match what other people expect from us so that we can feel like we fit in. And this is what I love about this shift time, because when you decided you didn't care about fitting in and then you find community because everybody else is being themselves, that's the prerequisite to unity consciousness. So we can't really unify if we're all going to try and be something we're not. And so I find that life is the greatest teacher. In one given week, I'm given everything that I need to know what is needed on the planet to be healed based on what my role is or what I've been given as challenges and things that might be strengths, so that I can do the work that's necessary, knowing that my own issues and the things that inspire me and what my passions are is everything that I'm tasked with to bring to the larger picture, and that I don't need to look outside of myself for that, because it's all written in the script of our bodies, our DNA, and we just have to pay attention to what our energy field is telling us. And when we get symptoms and we're not well, or anything that causes a judgment in us, we have to recognize it as a blessing, because when we're given the wisdom and the understanding of how to work with it, we expand and we actually shift energy. And so if we didn't have the experience of adversity or some sort of block or symptom, we wouldn't be given the paperwork we need to, create that revelation that, helps not only shift us, but our ancestral lines going back. It's like a form of time travel, and it changes the way that the earth is operating, and it's what leads to ascension. So embrace the positive and negatives, find that place of curiosity and neutrality to begin to observe and hear what those messages are, and be careful of giving your power away, because you know how to heal more than anybody else. And the more we understand how it shows up in every arena of our life, whether it's our relationships, our spiritual disposition, and the dynamics that play out with our friends and communities, we'll understand how it relates to the body and the rest of everything. And so just be conscious in every moment and enjoy the greatest education that you can give yourself, which is to pay attention to every aspect of who you are and to honor it and respect it.
Can you hear me? You have to talk to them at the back. We need the title up, though. Okay,
That was awesome.
Lori, you're up.
Okay. All right, so when it comes to dealing with challenges, first of all, that was so awesome, Laura. I just totally love you. When we're all going through some very heightened challenges right now in our own unique way. And I think for me, what's really helpful around this is to recognize that this, once again, as we know, this period of linear time that we're going through right now is a time that is, we call it Ascension, which is basically designed by us for us to remember and realign with our source consciousness, which is divine love. And so that every experience we're having, we put there for ourselves so that we could use it in some way to heal, transform, transmute, realign with source, right? It's basically source calling us home to source. And yet we keep our individuality, our unique individualized being. So if that's the case, then fundamentally, at the root cause of every, let's call it a wound or challenge, there's actually, the cause is some desire to know oneself as love, the origin. And so somewhere in there is some kind of gift or many gifts. And these gifts are expanded consciousness, expanded awareness, expanded love. And so if we can remember that, in the moment an egoic identity is going through some really challenging experience, the resolution is to recognize there's some kind of gift in this for me. There's some kind of gift or gifts of expanded awareness or consciousness or remembrance. So if you're, whatever it is you're going through, the moment you can remember that and start to ask, what are the gifts that I'm meant to receive? Because these gifts are going to remind you and bring you back into your remembrance. What are the gifts I'm meant to receive through this experience, or that I'm meant to somehow transmute through the awakening of these gifts? And in that, we can really, many times, and typically it has to do with some kind of forgiveness or some kind of gift of learning or awareness that you're going to share in contribution to the world. So for example, some of my deepest, greatest pains have had to do with what's going on with animals on the planet, even in my own personal experiences. And what I've come to learn is that as I'm healing and resolving those for me, I'm able to heal those throughout all timelines, throughout all realities, throughout all dimensions of space, and through, and if you want to even sort of make it even smaller, throughout all my ancestry, throughout all my DNA, all my bloodlines. And as I'm doing that, I'm actually able to do it and assist others in doing it through their bloodlines and through their lineage, so that the issues we're dealing with, we're actually transmuting them for all reality as we come into this oneness. So I think one of the biggest things is that it starts with remembering that there's major gifts within even the challenges, the most challenging things that we are experiencing right now. And the other thing I want to say, just on a very human level, if you have your go-tos, like I have my certain go-tos, I know that if I'm what I sometimes call hitting the floor, because I'll hit the floor sometimes where I'm like, this is as good as I can do, and this is just still challenging me in some way, or this is the best I have, and I don't know what else there is here. If I'm hitting the floor on some, experience that I'm working through, I have my go-tos. Like for me, I know it's getting out into nature, swimming in the ocean, or sitting on a beach, or in the forest, or wherever, nature. Okay, I know for me it's prayer and meditation. Just getting back to that, I know for me it's maybe a trusted friend who understands the sacred neutral, who understands to carry me through a challenging time if perhaps I can't find my way through. A third-party neutral healer. That's what healers really are here for, to assist during those times where we're maybe a little unclear or uncertain of our own way. So whatever your go-tos are is what I'm saying. Have your go-tos. Maybe it's some what we call cave time, where you kind of bundle up and you just really practice like innocent self-love. Like, what would self-love do now? What is the most self-loving, self-honoring thing I can do right now because I'm challenged in this moment? What does it mean for me to love and nurture myself in this moment, that I will not abandon my own self, no matter how much challenge in this moment I'm going through? Everybody can do that. Everybody can pull the covers over your head if that's what you need to love yourself through whatever moment during these sometimes quite challenging times. Not always. Sometimes they're the most joyful. You're on cloud nine, and in those moments, you go out and you share it and live it and be it. But anyway, that's for me how I make it through.
Thank you, Lori. Awesome. All right, Matt.
There we go. So how many of you desire having the deepest spiritual experiences but are pretty tired of working so hard at it? Sound familiar? Okay. Because that's what we need to really resolve. All of us have had such deep journeys. And primarily, we've had deep journeys so that yours can be easier. That's the service behind this, and it's certainly my desire, is to make every bit of your life and your spiritual life so much easier. So many of us on the spiritual path are looking for activations, awakenings, healings, which, for all intents and purposes, makes a lot of sense. If only this was activated, if only this was awakened, if only this was cleared, then this would happen. An awakening or an activation is the kinesthetic or a multidimensional remembrance of what is already active in you. So if we are approaching activations from the point of view that we have not had something activated, we have an object to chase. And in this new spiritual paradigm, what's going to become quickly, it's already becoming this way, but what's going to become more imperative is not chasing after the next healing, awakening, or activation that puts you in a state of, this hasn't happened yet, but we're about to enter into a period of integration. And we're going to find out that integration is the most important aspect of the spiritual journey, that what's activated in you is just oh yeah, that's already active. It's like the light is already turned on you, but you haven't seen the light because you are it. You have no distance between you and the light, so you can't objectify it. What we really need is time to integrate. And what that means is we've had lifetimes and lifetimes of experiences and activations. It's like putting candy in your mouth, but we haven't taken the time to digest it. Everyone wants to taste the candy. Who's willing to digest it? And that process of integration is way different, not nearly as sexy as the next activation, whatever. And here's how I like to describe integration. Because when we are pursuing the next healing, the next activation, the next awakening, we have something to pursue that is going to give our lives some new spin. And there's something in our lives that we're perceiving as an adversary, whether it's the mind as your adversary, whether it's the DNA or the cellular memories or the ego. And there's always a spiritual adversary, which is very much an imprint of a 3D understanding or a 3D model. In the fifth dimension, what we understand is the pain, the hurt, and the darkness are the parts of our absolute self that have not been recognized as the light of divinity. And if we really want to have an interesting experience, try taking anything that you want less of in your life: fear, darkness, anger, jealousy. And let us just imagine each of them like children. And let us begin to perhaps, instead of interacting with the things we want less of, as if there are these scary things in your field preventing you from having your biggest spiritual experience. Instead, what if we say, what arises is an opportunity for me to integrate the mastery that's already active within me and to have right relationship with what's arising, where I shift, or you shift, from instead of how can I get this to give me what I want, we shift to hello fear, how may I serve you? And we learn that all of these feelings and experiences, whether activated by our interactions with others or just arising within as our contribution to cleansing the collective. Either way, we are, as spiritual beings, facing what has been shunned, ostracized, and denied, and for the well-being of all, we are here to be the companions and parents to the children within us that arise as feelings and experiences that no matter how dark, ugly, and disrespectful it acts towards you, we practice welcoming it with the greatest thoughtfulness and respect. Because we're not here to turn darkness into light. We are the angels who are escorting the darkness back to the light. You are all told, thank you very much, thank you. Thank you, it's lovely. We should all have experiences where you say something and people stop and applaud. It's a lovely experience, I highly recommend it. But you were in heaven, theoretically, and you were told, hey, you're gonna go down to earth and you're gonna be someone's spirit guide. And we're like, oh, that sounds awesome. But the fine print was that the one you're guiding is the body you inhabit. So it's very important to not just know what the universe knows, because there's no end to what the universe knows. And to be perfectly honest, you're going to learn a lot of stuff. It's going to be this, oh my God, now I get it. And it's not going to, honest to God, mean anything. You're going to go back to your life, and you're going to go, I know this new thing, and everything is going to, by and large, look the same. Because what changes your reality is when you change your relationship with what arises. As a lot of you know, I teach loving what arises. You may not like how something feels, but just like a parent may not like how their child is acting, you say, this child needs love now more than any other time. I feel their suffering, I see their pain, and I love you. So again, the practice of integration is a way of sharpening the skill set of relationship building. And it is where you learn to relax your body and open your heart, and no matter what arises within you, you end each battle by welcoming it into your heart, knowing that the experiences of conflict, whether on an energetic level or interpersonal level, is not based on what other people do to you, but how openly you dare to welcome whatever enters your field. And I can tell you from personal experience, having many awakenings and esoteric and all sorts of magic carpet rides, which I love. But I realized at a point in my history, I knew a whole lot of stuff, and I was still afraid of life, of myself, of my power. And one day, something inside of me shifted. And I sat there in the middle of my living room. And I had an experience where I perceived the darkest, most despicable character approach me I've ever seen. And it started to intimidate me. And something inside of me said, just stop and relax, open. And I did. And I literally felt like I was about to die. And this thing got nose to nose with me. and my heart was pounding out of my chest. And it said to me, I am not here to hurt you. I am showing you and taking the form of my history of hurt. I'm showing you how often I've been judged, how often I've been denied, how often I have been ignored. I am only monstrous to show you what others have done. And I'm not here to hurt you. I am only here begging for your love. And at that moment, I became the liberator of that entity, not someone need to be liberated from it.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, so we're talking about this process of bringing the spiritual and the material into one, the higher and the lower self to merge as one. And this process starts to increase our frequency. We begin to elevate into more of these higher realms of consciousness and realities and holograms. And so we're very familiar with the 3D world. This is what we're born into. This is what we've been challenged with. This is what's pushing us to live certain ways. But what's happening is, as we go through this process of this sacred union of the spirit and the human, we're becoming open to this fifth dimensional field, this fifth dimensional earth. And so my question to the panel, just open it up to anyone. You guys can just jump right in. How do you experience this fifth dimensional earth, this fifth dimensional field? Because I think it helps people kind of get an understanding of where we are elevating to or ascending to. So I'll open it up to the panel.
Well, we have to look at fear as really meaning there's an aspect of ourself or aspects of ourselves that we're not familiar with yet. And so we fear it because we're not familiar. When actual fact, we're made of all the things that know exactly how to handle our environment and our world. And we're made of earth, air, fire, water. True alchemy is understanding our connection to spirit. The manipulations have had to do with being stuck in the negative ego and having the material world and things that put us in survival or powerlessness or emotional distress. It keeps us locked into that. And so it feels like physicality holds dominion. This ascension is about spirit holding dominion and allowing the body to experience it by understanding that earth, air, fire, water is within us. And so the earth responds to us. And what the earth is revealing is the health of the collective. And so for us to be able to move into fifth density and really experience it, we have to look at our own inner elements and ask, are our waters contaminated? If we, see chemtrails, we have to ask ourselves, is my mind being controlled? If we look at something that disturbs us, maybe litter on the beach, is my physical body toxic? And begin to look at what's outside of us and begin to turn it on ourselves so that we can purify our inner elements, so that we experience an earth that's responding to the cleanliness of what we've done within our beings. And so we can look at everything with this feeling of fear, or we can say, well, this means that I haven't woken up a part of me yet, which is the master, which is the avatar consciousness that will experience dimensional levels and DNA upgrades that can handle pretty much anything easily. Just transmute it, no problem, because the physics are different in these higher dimensions. So what I like to remind people of is whatever you're seeing that triggers you or throws you into a place of fear or anger or feeling this needing to fight the system and kind of lowering the energy into the lower chakras where it wants us, just look at your own inner elements and purify it by, stepping up to the plate. Because like higher dimensional beings, they're not going to do it for us. They're not going to save us. Like our immune system, it's not just going to make us healthy if we eat bad food, if we have negative belief systems and we don't love ourselves. But it's waiting, and it's just loving us, saying, once you're ready, I'm here. Same thing with these higher beings that are here to help us. Once we put the hand out and say, I'm devoted and I'm ready, we begin to bring those energies in, realizing that they're a part of us, which purifies the negative ego, which is the key to experiencing 5D level. 5D has to do with fifth chakra. It has to do with the fifth element that has to do with alchemy. Once we move into the fifth and we understand how to transmute all of this, then everything opens up and we get to experience things beyond 5D. And we already hold those energies and experience them a lot. But to ground it and anchor it into the physical domain means to adjust your lifestyle accordingly and not be at the mercy of everything being thrown, and understand that you have the influence and power to change it.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to jump in. I'd like to jump in. I think we're all experiencing 5D intermittently. And the way to know this, I tend to do very practical steps so you can really see it and understand, is imagine a time that you've put your keys down or some small device, and you either set it on a counter or you stuck it in a drawer, and then later in the day you come up to find it and you open the drawer, it's not there, it's not where you put it, and you pull everything out of that drawer and it's completely gone. So here's what's really happening. You are at 5D when you put it down, and then you slip back into your 3D state, a less blissful, less aligned, less peaceful, less loving, and you're looking for it and it's not there because you left it, the thing, in 5D. And what happened to me is I actually kept asking, where did my stuff go? And each time I was told, well, it's either in the fourth or the fifth dimension. And I'd think, well, you know, maybe we're practicing, you know, my stuff's going there ahead of me, you know, right? Well, one day I asked the only question you should be asking when stuff happens that you don't understand. And the question is, what's going on? If you say who, what, where, when, or why, you're asking so you can make a mental decision about how to solve it. Who took the cookies? Well, let's go get those kids and make them share. You know, where did I leave my keys so I can go get them and I have them? But when you say what, when you use the what question, it's completely open-ended and it allows you to receive completely open-ended. So when I ask that question, what's going on, and that's exactly what came out of my thought, I was told, Maureen, you were in the fifth dimension when you set your stuff down. And that's when I began to realize that if I'm doing it, everybody's doing it. So how many of you have had that experience where something has disappeared and then reappeared later in the exact spot? That's proof positive that you've already gone multidimensional and that you are floating between the dimensions, and we are all doing this, by the way, and there are now there's so much energy to support your staying in a more evolved state. It's kind of like this. You know how kids wear uniforms in some schools, and there are studies that prove that when they wear a uniform, they're much better behaved, right? Well, we've got these energies beaming on us, the photon belt, that is creating a state in our consciousness that makes it easier for us to choose what I call the God choice, the divine choice, that alignment choice that Laura's talking about. And what that does is allows us then to lean in that direction, kind of like ruts in a road. If you're driving your car down the road, in a dirt road, your car is going to go in the ruts unless you work really hard not to. So the same thing happens. This energy supports your making God decisions, and you now have your proof that you have already been fifth dimensional, even if it's just for a moment. And anytime something disappears that you cannot find, all you have to do is say, I'd like my item back. Thank you very much, in a sweet, heartfelt way, and you will find it very quickly.
Great, thank you. Yeah. We're talking a lot about the effects of the fifth dimensional energies on us. I've been working a lot with, and I'm writing a book about this, what is the fifth dimension? What does it actually feel, look, and taste, and look, all of it? What is it like? What is the fifth dimension, really? And I wanted to share with you a little bit about that. It's like something to imagine and a place to go where, first of all, if you need conflict in your life, or you need something to push against, you won't go there. Because imagining a place where there is no conflict, there is nothing in opposition. Everything is harmonic. Everything is completely in a flow of energy that is so uplifting and so beautifully inspiring that you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Imagining that there are spheres of being, different spheres, that actually are training places where people are in those places when they're out of their bodies, when they're dreaming or sleeping, when they in meditation, where we go to these places. And we are trained how to do healing work. trained for multidimensional leadership, trained for all the things that we are going to be bringing into this earth to create heaven on earth. Have you ever wondered, why is it that so many people all over the world have this heartfelt dream that we want a world that is harmonious, a world that's beautiful, where everyone has what they need, where we're all creative and we're all radiating light and love and really just being our spiritual nature without all this other stuff happening? That vision, that dream is the result of the experiences that we're having in the fifth dimension. Whether we remember them or not, it doesn't matter. They are there deep in our souls, in our higher multidimensional parts of our being, and they're with us. The key is to activate those in the present, in the world we live in. One of the things that we're doing is the idea of changing our relationship to time completely. We have a new website called livethefuturenow.com, and the idea is that you go to the future that you wish to inhabit, and you meet your future self there, and you meet the conditions that you would like to imagine the highest possible world you could live in that future. And then you stay in that future. You stand there in that future. And you imagine coming back into the present as your future self communicating with you in the present time. And actually share that consciousness with your current self. And also share what were all the steps you took through linear time to reach that point in the future, where this new world is fully present on Earth. So that's one of the techniques that we're working with to help people bring that vision all the way back right into our lives today. And of course, time is completely subjective. We create our experience of time, and therefore we have the power to change and use time as a creative tool rather than a trap. And most of us, if we're caught in 3D world, it becomes a trap. We're running. I always say, and people always say, they get to a certain point and say, I'm out of time. Yes, they are moving out of time. Because it's the only place they can go when they get to that end point where they run out of time. And so they're running out of time into the next dimension, to the fifth dimension. And I think that's really important to recognize how our experience of time actually governs our capacity to move into the fifth dimension. And that ability is a product of realizing time is our tool, not our trap, and holding and working in that from that future is very, very, very creative and very, very powerful. So.
Oh, okay, good. Awesome. Thank you. So I think it would be really helpful just for definitions, and I don't know, other people may have different perspectives on this, but just for definitions, let's just talk about third, fourth, fifth dimension, really fast for definition. Third dimension is what we've been really living in physical reality. So it includes light, sound, and space, right? Height, width, and depth. That's all third dimension. Separation, right? Fourth dimension is like non-physical. So you have things like thoughts and emotions, and you have things like non-physical beings that might hang out in different vibrational frequencies within that fourth dimension, right? Fifth dimension, what's fifth dimension? It's love, it's oneness. So how do you know when you're in fifth dimension? How do you know?
Fall in love.
You're in love. You're walking around, you're like, you feel great, you're happy, you're joyful, you're in love with life. Your Kundalini awakens and you're like, wow, it's a cup. Oh, I love this water. Oh, it tastes so good. You're in love. You're the embodiment of love. And all of this can really be dramatically identified by energy, right? So what we know is everything has an energetic vibration. And this vibration moves at a rate known as a frequency. And these frequencies, which are the rate of vibration, the denser, heavier frequencies tend to be associated with things like anger, resentment, judgment, fear. All the fear vibrations, they're hanging out in 3D. And you know when you're in 3D because you're going to feel them. You're going to feel frustrated, angry, upset, pissed off. I mean, you know, choose your word. Choose your vibration there, right? And when you're in 5D, you're basically walking around feeling those sensations of love, peace, kindness, generosity, acceptance, allowance. Those frequencies of those vibrations are aligned with a 5D reality. So the purpose of really aligning yourself with 5D is where you're basically experiencing some harmonious vibration, and you're the embodiment of that those frequencies, those vibrations, in all your endeavors. And you're able to basically hold those vibrations and those frequencies pretty much no matter what is going on. And this is really what we're talking about when we basically are talking about 5D. The other one thing I want to say is, in our 3D reality, we're typically dealing with a lot of choice, right? Lots of choice here. Red, black, green, yellow, you, me, him, her, yes, no, up, down, left, right, you know. Should I do this? Should I do that? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? But in 5D, you give up a lot of your choice. Your choice is to love. Your choice is to forgive. You surrender your choice to divine will. You align your will with divine will, which is always a will to love. It's really simple.
Thank you, Lori. All right, we're going to open it up to questions in the audience. Matt, do you have one last thing to add before we go to the audience?
Sure.
All right, 5D.
5D. Well, thanks to what Maureen was saying about things disappearing, and now we can stop blaming the dryer because we know where our socks are. Right? When you enter the 5th dimension, it's a big pile of socks, and you get to have a pair again. Or you can go to livethefuturenow.com, talk to your future self and say, what do I need to do to get those socks back? So we have a lot of options. So funny. But on a serious note, the 5th dimension, this is something very interesting I found out about 5D reality. Because again, you can have a spontaneous experience of it, but it takes a long time to integrate into it, to get used to it. It's not talked about enough. It really needs to, because, right, the pamphlet sells you on a lot of cool stuff. Ooh, activations. But you have to digest that, and that takes a little, like I've had activations where I shifted into a permanent super state. A super state is where you're not having ups and downs, it's simultaneous. And it took me 2 years to figure out what was going on. I thought I was shut off emotionally. Because all of a sudden, it wasn't like, I'm no longer afraid. I forgot how to be afraid. I forgot how to be sad. I was in a moment many years ago where I thought, this person hurt me. I should be sad and show them what they've done. And I couldn't do it. It wasn't like I was choosing a high road. You forget what it is. So, and then I would cry tears of inspiration if I saw a puppy on a TV, and I go, well, I'm still emotionally aligned. And so you have to really take some time to figure this out. And so what's interesting, 5th dimension is love. But here's what I want to contribute to this conversation to really help you. Because again, in the 3rd dimension, it's, I don't like how I feel. If I had this, it would be different. And it's, I'm trying to get out of the low and I'm chasing a high. Right? Sound familiar? In 5th dimension is a super state energy. Super state is also in a space void of time. So just to make this easy to understand, because I like to make things as practical as possible, especially when we talk about love. Because one of the things I see in so many people is that when we think of being in the frequency of love, it's like someone who's trying to be excited all the time. And if they're not excited or happy, they think they're losing something. And it really doesn't require that much effort. So here's what I want to contribute about 5th dimension and love. Because what's interesting about love is if you understand love from a 3rd dimension, it's way different from love from a 5th dimension.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what's really interesting. right? Nothing weirder than going towards the fifth dimension with a 3D map.
Right.
That's an acid trip right there. So here's how I want to talk about fifth dimension really quickly. Let's think of love like an ocean. The waves are the ecstasy, the power of the ocean. But as you know, it would be very short-sighted to look at the ocean and say, when there aren't waves, it's not an ocean, right? You would agree that the waves can come and go, but the ocean is always present. In the same way, love in its ecstatic state is arousal, attraction, and even unity. That's an ecstatic state of love. But to say that when the ecstatic state isn't there, I must be disconnected is the same kind of thing as saying if there's no waves, it's not the ocean. So what's really interesting is, okay, if love in its ecstatic state is a wave, what is love in its natural state as the ocean? Because you're better off tuning into love in its natural state than trying to be in the waves all the time. That's what makes it so painful, and that's what makes us work too hard, and it just creates a lot of pain and suffering. What if I were to tell you that love in its natural state, during the arising of a wave, prior to a wave, after a wave, is emptiness? And that most of you are experiencing an emptiness of being that your ego is perceiving as lack, loss, and deficiency. And the judgment is, if instead of this emptiness I was jazzed up on love, and you're actually looking away from the fact that the love that you seek is a passing wave that will come and go, but the natural state of love is the emptiness that we have not been taught to respect, that in fact we judge and try to use spirituality to absolve. But we're actually trying to absolve what we don't know is the natural state of love. And when we can learn to be completely at peace as nothing whatsoever, then that nothingness arises as waves of everything conceivable and inconceivable. So just take a moment and tune in and perhaps have a moment of realization that there is an emptiness within you that is the silent presence of love. It is what creates the waves of ecstasy, of oneness, but it's always in that empty, open state. And as human beings in the third dimension, what we have learned to label that emptiness of love in its natural state is called depression. Depression is the doorway to awakening for someone who welcomes love in its most unfamiliar form, instead of trying to fill that space with more things you'll be afraid to lose and lose track of. Welcome to the fifth dimension.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, quick. All right, Susan.
The fifth dimension is. I do know, though, about unbounded awareness. I know about transcendental consciousness. And I know about the experience of integrating transcendental awareness into everyday life. Okay, so let's just spend a moment talking about what unbounded transcendental consciousness is. It is a state of the nameless, formless, attributeless, absolute, pure awareness, which is an experience of pure peace, wholeness, oneness, bliss. It's called Sat Chit Ananda, or absolute bliss consciousness. It's a state of samadhi. Sama means evenness, dhi means the subtlest level of mind. So when we're in that state of transcendental consciousness, we are at one, we are in complete harmony, perfect peace, perfect wholeness. There is no conflict. I loved what Lori was saying. I loved what everybody was saying about this state of awareness which is beyond the duality, beyond this, what we might call the 3 dimensions or whatever. So that state is beyond this relative world. It is unmanifest. It is absolute. So, I spent 20 years in an ashram experiencing this for 5 to 20 hours a day. So, however, integrating that into our everyday life. So how do we do that? All right, so we experience this oneness because it is it is an aspect of our being. It is our I am self. It's our mighty I am presence. It's who we really are. That bliss consciousness, that's who we really are. That's our true nature of being. However, we have these other layers of our being. We have the ego intellect, we have the mind, we have the body, we have the pranic body, we have all these sheaths, these different aspects of our energy field, this physical, this vital body, the mental body, the emotional body, the ego intellect, and all that. So these are different dimensions. We're living in many dimensions at the same time. And underlying it all is this absolute consciousness. So even when we're upset, even when we're challenged, underlying that is this pure awareness. That's who we really are. And you know what? We can experience this bliss consciousness at the same time as we're pissed off. We can experience it at the same time as we're having seemingly what we call negative emotions. In fact, all of it is part of the life experience, and we can have it all at the same time because we are multidimensional beings living all these things at the same time. So it's important for us to realize and not judge, oh, I'm getting angry, oh, I'm getting sad, all these experiences of emotions is all there at the same time as we are in the oneness. And when you experience the oneness at the same time as you're experiencing everything else, then you are living in God consciousness. You're living your full potential. Because not only are you pissed off, but also you are God. How about that? So we can experience it all. And I want everyone to understand that, to embrace all of it. Because it's all part of you. It's all you. It's all good.
Okay, thank you, Susan. All right, let's open up the questions from the audience. Deborah will hear, she has a microphone, and if you have a specific question for the panel or for one person, please let us know that too. Okay, who's first?
I wanted to share one thing about the 5th dimension. From what I understand, everything that's been said in the panel is beautiful. But there is 2 dualities that are in the 5th dimension still. The rest of them are all gone. But one is male and female, and the second one is creation. Because with creation, you have to have destruction. And then beyond that, as you go up to the soul level, then you have to, there's a cosmic mirror which shows what you've created. You can't take it through that mirror. You have to let it go and let God, because that's where everything is one.
Okay, thank
That's what I
you.
would
Let's
share.
keep it to questions. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Marta. My boyfriend Bobby and I went to a place in Brazil last summer called Valley of the Dawn, where they work with time-space compression, which I didn't really know anything about. They invited us to go into the structure, which was a pyramid, with two people, a man and a woman, who were the guardians, and they said, sit here for 5 minutes. I didn't know anything, I wasn't expecting anything, and in those 5 minutes, incredible things happened. It seemed like it was more like 2 hours, and I got all this information downloaded, and I felt very blissful and peaceful, and I've been trying to recreate that feeling since I came back, and then they said, oh, your 5 minutes are up, come on, and it seemed like 2 hours. So I've been trying to recreate that experience of that, where I can have like 5 minutes of time and seem like many hours and get much done. Is it possible to do that? And how?
It's easy to do that, actually. All you have to do is sit down in a chair, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, get quiet and still and centered within yourself, and then relax, just breathe normally. Then take a few more deep breaths and get quieter and more still. Then take a few more deep breaths. Get very quiet and still. And then you do something that most people never do during deep meditation, and that is you ask. Ask. Call upon a divine being by name, if you want to, or you could just ask the universe or ask God or whatever you want. Ask for the experience that you want to have. We can ask for anything, and we'll get it instantly when we're in that state of deep quietude. So ask and receive. And also, one very important thing, don't try to have the same experience you had before. In other words, don't expect, no expectations are allowed, no trying is allowed. Just simply ask, and then take another deep breath, and then do what I call the do nothing program. That means do nothing, nothing, and less than nothing. Just be neutral and allow and receive. And see what happens. Something even more spectacular might happen than what you had before.
Also, it's in your cellular memory now since you've already had that experience. So you can just go in, tap into it again. So you're leaving time, and you just go and drop into those experiences and reawaken them again. So it's in you now. You haven't lost it. Okay? Anyone else want to contribute to that? Yes?
What's interesting is we have an experience, like she had an experience of 5 minutes in this activation chamber and all this download was happening. The download, the visions, the feelings, whenever you have a spiritual experience, you're experiencing what's called contrast, meaning you're having a real experience. It's real, absolutely, but it's contrary to what you normally experience on a day-to-day basis, so you have some space between you and it to notice the differences. As soon as you have a spiritual experience, you go immediately into a process of integration. When you integrate information downloads, it goes so deep into your cellular memory that there's no space between you and it. So in your egoic consciousness, it feels like the experience is slipping away instead of seeing that it's actually merged into your being so close that you can't access it because there's no space between you and it. So the misperception is that I tasted the wave, I rode the wave, now I'm back in the stupid ocean with no waves. Empty, boring, and I want to ride the high. But what we have to learn as evolving, mature spiritual masters is you get the ride of the high, and then the dissolving and evaporation of your experience is a sign that you are integrating it. And it's from this level of insight that you will realize no spiritual insight is a sign that your insights are integrating. No spiritual experience is perhaps the highest experience of all.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
So my question is for everybody on the panel, if you're willing to, and just to follow up on Matt's words about the highest experience of all. I'm looking at that word ascension that's like out there, and I don't know if others feel it, but I'm kind of uncomfortable with the word. It feels to me like a very third-dimensional word that we need to get higher and higher and higher, and there's 9 dimensions and there's intergalactic dimensions. But Matt talks about the oceanic depths. Gordon talks about timelessness. Susan, just to mention a few, talks about unbounded oneness. I'm wondering if the word ascension is really serving us. And I don't know where it came down from, or if it's holy, and if I'm going to get stoned because I'm questioning that word. But my question is there another word? Maybe it's descending, descension. So I just put it out, is there another word that describes what we're after here, or not after, or just experiencing?
Well, I think the word ascension has been layered with religious connotations that can make it feel a little awkward for people. I find it just in a very literal way. We are ascending in our frequency. So just keep it there where it's not having all of these kind of, end of the world connotations. I find transcendence is another description that you might resonate with more. But ascension is, I think, being introduced into the planetary collective from the cosmic creator. So it's getting a relationship with it that doesn't turn you off, because it is a cosmic plan, and it is alive now. It is active and happening now. You could maybe think of descending the soul into the human instead of ascending up to the soul. There's lots of ways that you can work with it. But is there anybody else have? Lori?
I do.
So the one thing I'd like to say about that is we humans, we have all kinds of judgments about everything, don't we? And sometimes even words. I mean, there's some words we're not even allowed to say on planet Earth, like, the N word? You know that word? It's like the name of a country that has been used with so much insult and hate that we're not even allowed to say that word. In fact, I have like a new thing within me that I've been wanting to say the H word. Let's just stop using that word, H-A-T-E. Like, why don't we just say the H word? Because we don't want it here anymore really anyway, right? But the real thing is, at the core of this is, what is our perspective, our judgment about words and their power? And even we talked about using our words and being conscious about our words, and what frequency and vibrations do these words carry that maybe we're in our identity, but kind of like bunking into and dancing with and playing with, and what meanings are we giving to these words? That's what's really, to me, because you think of it as just a word, but no, actually, it begs a whole new question for us to expand our consciousness, which is, what's our perspective about things that are out there? What are we willing to attach to those things in terms of meaning? And to me, from my perspective, what's really fundamentally there is, what vibration does any particular word carry? Yeah. Because that's what's significant. If a frequency, a vibration of a word, and the frequency of that vibration is feeling light and uplifting, well, then we're going to align with it, right? Mm-hmm. And if we're having a heaviness or a density connected with a word, we're going to resist and react to it. And our job is to notice the resistance, the reaction, to however it means to us as unique individuals, to really come into some kind of neutrality about it. It's just simply a word. It's the frequency we're interested in, right? That's my point of view.
Okay, Matt?
I'd like to jump in here for a second and say, I really like what you said, Meg, about it's really part of the process, and it's like in the DNA, and it's in the programming. And also to add to what Laurie's saying, when we use certain words, we're actually attracting a vibration and a resonance for something. So the first thing is, we're definitely not talking about the Easter type ascension, where you have to leave your body to get where you want to go. But yet, we know that the word has the implication that we could unify the divine in this egoic body in a way that would allow the ego and the higher self to become one, or I like to joke around and say they'll get married and live happily ever after. And so one of the things that we want to do is look at what does the word mean to other people? And I think it's kind of funny, because when we think about a certain group of people that are thinking about, some kind of an ascension, and they're more of a traditional type belief system, it makes me laugh with joy, because I think, oh wow, they're in for a real surprise when they have their ascension, and won't that be fun? And I mean it in a very, very lighthearted way. So I think as we look at a word, if it does make us uncomfortable, then for sure you should use a different word, because obviously you have an energy on it, and you don't have to hook into that. Just do something else. It's like when you go into a movie you don't like what's going on, you don't like the theme, whatever, you leave. You don't sit through it because you paid for it. So do the same with Ascension.
Laura?
We have to understand that Ascension has a lot to do with our ability to embrace our darkness. It's like the soil, and our higher consciousness plants seeds in the soil. And Ascension, this planetary body was seeded as an Ascension planet because we really do have the capacity to experience our 12-strand DNA and beyond. We are functioning at a much lower DNA strand level, and we can look at it in metaphorical terms as the tree of knowledge. In order to gain knowledge and gnosis, to unwind from all the programmings and mind control that has lowered our frequency. And so Ascension, to me, is just clearing the human vessel to bring in our divine energy, which is going to increase the vibration of the earth, but we have to embrace the darkness to do that. And when we can claim our darkness, which we've been taught to fear, and purify it from controllers and contamination, then we are massively creating our dreams and visions into reality in accordance with our the divine plan and integrity and the laws, the law of one, and being service to others without denying the self, because we have a lot of processing we need to do. And so words have been screwed up. Even saying Jesus Christ, people are like, oh, you're religious or you New Age freak, and if I don't say Jesus, if I don't bring up the Christ consciousness, then I'm the Antichrist. So. And the word God,
I know she's a woman.
and even the word God, people are offended by. So, we have to understand that just like we need to purify from the programmings, we need to clean these words or choose new words, because a lot of words have been ruined by other people representing a programmed version.
Yeah.
But we can reinvent the way we relate to them or choose new ones. And but anyway, it's about embracing your light and dark and merging the masculine and feminine. To me, the feminine's the temple, the masculine's the security guard. And when the two are working together and they decide to join hands and dance, we're going to experience this ascension. It's a blossoming of human consciousness. It's a seed that's within all of us. We just need to give ourselves plenty of sunlight and water and trust that we know exactly what we're doing. And just to embrace the blossoming of waking up to our authenticity and our true self. And once we gain that, it's maintenance. It's not about arriving and staying. It's about being the gardener. We create food and we have to do the dishes. We can accept that, but we get piled up in our mental bodies and emotional bodies. We forget to take the trash out and we forget to dump it down the drain. So to me, it's a maintenance job, and that awareness is going to keep us in an ascension vibration.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Another comment seems ridiculous, but I'll do it anyway. The idea of ascension, when you really, in one way that it might be causing difficulties, is it implies duality. It implies there's ascension to somewhere and it's not here. You have to go somewhere else. And then what it leaves out is the concept of descending, because the ultimate goal is to make a connection into this deeper level of being, this higher frequency, if you want to call it that, or this profoundness of the wholeness. And then, if you want to use the word descend, that energy into our entire bodies and all through our being, radiating it through all the way to the earth and out through our bodies. That's what Laura just said. That's really fantastic, and that's the process. And in the end, it becomes first it's a circulation system. We connect, we bring it down, we use it, we radiate it, we connect some more, we radiate it. It becomes a cycle, in a sense. And the ocean's always there, as Matt says, the ocean of love. My words I got for it were the matrix of love. It's always present, it's omnipresent, omniscient, it's everywhere. That's the essence of what holds every atom and every universe, every galaxy in right relationship. That's the matrix of love, underlies everything. But in my reality, the goal is fusion. We want complete fusion between our spiritual highest levels we can connect to and our day-to-day livingness of our lives. So the duality disappears. But you have to live in duality and work with it, and gradually that that cycling up and back and descending and ascending and continuing becomes more and more a fusion. There's no more up and down or in and out or whatever. It's just, it is. That's who we are. And that's what I meant when I said in the beginning, the fifth dimension and all these dimensions are totally present right here, right now. It's just a matter of our fusing with them and being in those states steadily and more fully, and that becomes who we are. It's very relatively straightforward.
Thank you, Gordon. Okay, Matt.
So for me, it's the word is a symbol of the meaning that we give to it. So for me, what does ascension mean to me and how I see it? And it's changed over the years so dramatically. And in order to give you my understanding of the word ascension, I'll share with you a very short little story. When I was guided to start working as a healer, I was at a very interesting crossroads in my life. Always had the best of intentions, always been a lovely, lovely, heart-centered person. But I was and of course at this time in my life, I didn't know what I'm telling you now, so I'm kind of saying in retrospect. I had a mind full of all sorts of esoteric knowledge. I knew so much about so many things. I was knee-deep in having already woken up, not knowing that I had yet to grow up. And when I continued with my journey, the waking up was complemented by growing up. There are grown-ups in this world, and I don't say grown-ups as if it's an age thing, because you could have been on this planet for 100 years, and the littlest thing can turn you back into a beautiful 5-year-old, right? For all of us. There are many beings on this planet who are waking up, who have not grown up. There are grown-ups who have yet to wake up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, ascension is spiritual maturity. It is the process of integrating what is already true within us and letting it integrate into the cells of our being, into our everyday lives, so that we can be as awake as we are fully matured. In my reality, the word adult is not categorized to age necessarily, but adult is a word that means fully integrated, fully mature angel in human form. So we are waking up, and we also must grow up. And when those two pieces come together, that's when we are not just speaking about consciousness, but we're speaking as consciousness.
Thank you, Matt.
I wrote a book called Ascension. And this book called Ascension, in this book, I talk about ascended masters and beings of light, beings who have attained immortality. And that is, that's how I've defined ascension. I love all these other definitions. I love what everybody's been saying, because in fact, ascension means integrated consciousness. However, in my book, Ascension, I talk about transmuting and transforming the physical body into a light body. That would mean that you are experiencing your physicality as pure light. And in the book, I talk about beings who have attained a state where they are able to be anywhere that they want to at any time, appear in any form. They have complete mastery over all the laws of nature. They have mastery over all the 5 elements. So they're able to appear, disappear. They're able to have any supernormal ability that you can imagine. They're able to experience any dimension and any reality, and they are immortal. So that's my definition. It's not my definition of ascension. It is I guess, it's been a definition of ascension, which is attaining immortality, living forever in a body of light. And there are beings on this planet who have done that. There are beings who, even from the 20th and 19th, it isn't just, like ancient beings who lived thousands of years ago. There are beings who have lived in the 19th, 20th century who have attained the state of ascension. And traditionally, the idea is that when you attain ascension, you disappear in a flash of light. Seems to be, what happens. You disappear in a flash of light, and there's nothing left. And the Buddhists, for example, in their tradition, they say that tens of thousands of Buddhists have attained what they call the rainbow body. Rainbow body means you go into a little hut and you ascend, and at some point in this process, the people around see a rainbow. They actually see a flash of light. There is a being from India. His name is Ramalinga Swami in the 1800s. And he said to his disciples, I'm going to ascend. I'm disappearing. I'm going into this hut. Please keep a light outside the door here. Keep an eternal light going. And I would like you to chant all night long tonight. When you come into this hut in the morning, you won't find anything. I actually visited this place in India. It's called Vadalur. It's a place in India where this incredible saint, Ramalinga Swami, lived. And so they chanted all night long. He was inside of the room. There was only one door. It was a very small hut. And sure enough, in the middle of the night, they saw a flash of violet light coming from under the door. And the next day, they opened the hut and nothing was there. Disappeared completely. And the police made an investigation. And when I was there, I saw the articles, the newspaper articles. It was in the 1800s. And the police, after investigating, they concluded that he had disappeared completely. Only in India could that happen, where the police say the person disappeared completely. So that is how I see ascension. But I also see what everyone else has been saying here too, because what's happening now is that we are in a process of, not only individually, but the whole planet is rising to higher consciousness.
Thank you, Susan. Real quick, because we're running out of time, I wanted to just kind of jump on that comment about we've been kind of focused mostly on our personal transformation, our personal transcendence, but let's also talk about this planetary cosmic plan that is happening as well. And what I see is that we, as a collective, we pass through these certain stargates, if you want to call it, and they could be the equinox, the solstice. There's certain threshold bump ups that are happening on the collective field. And of course, the photon light that's coming from the great central sun is contributing to this. But if you can just take real quick, less than a minute, because I want to get to our activation next. If you have any idea of what would be a key gate that humanity is moving through in 2016.
A key date.
Yes.
Well, if we look at the galactic zodiac and the 13th sign, Ophiuchus, and we understand how it relates to the Golden Gate and opposite the Silver Gate, which is connected to Orion, Osiris, we see the balance of Isis, Osiris in the sky. And so on a deeper level, everything going on a cosmic level is going on within us. The Venus transits have been turning the pentagram upright in order to create this alchemy. And what was the question again?
Let's less than a minute, so you're already over your minute, but let's keep it down to what key gate of 2016.
So the key gate is the 13th gate, and so people associate Ophiuchus with a male energy, when I actually think it's a female energy, because the 13th gate is the mother arc, which is seated within the planetary core, which is why this is an ascension planet. When we move and activate our 12-tree grid and we go into 13, 14, 15, we're connecting with the Trinity, and when we go beyond that, we're in the zero-point energy in the neutron field that connects to Andromeda, and when we do monadic polarity integration, we're actually creating the ascension and bringing those two galaxies together, and the 13th gate is happening now.
Okay, anybody else? Quickly?
Yeah.
I created a 5D Merkaba that does everything Laura just described.
Okay, Lori?
I would just add that for planet Earth, planetarily, if you think about all timelines right now, all realities are going, at this point in linear time, we're all going through this together. And that as we come into 2017, what we do is actually, whether we know it or not, our full God's consciousness gets activated. And so what that means is we sort of effectively are creating our reality with more consciousness based on our state of consciousness, our frequency, and our vibration. So this overlapping timeline of ascension has been the training wheels.
Okay.
That's how I see it. The
All right,
training
thank
wheels
you.
come
Matt?
off.
The theme of 2016 is inspired conscious action.
Thank you.
And what we are learning is that if you want to think of your vibration is not the sum of your thoughts. Your vibration is the sum of the quality of choices you make every day. Now, in the beginning of spiritual journey, people talked about being mindful of your thoughts. And that is a great step in the beginning, but most of us in this room, if you had a thought that someone wronged you, you're not going to walk over immediately and assault them. You already have the consciousness that you're working so hard to cultivate. That really in the fifth dimension in 2016 is a very pivotal transition. Your vibration is not the sum total of your thoughts, it's the sum total of your choices. And your thoughts are just this consideration machine that is giving you options and ideas based on the choices you make on a daily basis. So if you take the time to love your heart more often, to send blessings to humanity, and soften yourself on a daily basis, that will in fact raise the vibration that will allow your mind to, instead of being an enemy, to be your genius machine, and to give you more inspired actions to take. If you take inspired actions, your mind will start bringing you greater choices to continually perpetuate this energy of inspiration. So let today be the day where we say, it's not about the thoughts you think, it's about the choices you make, and that becomes the shift for 2016.
All right, so we have a few minutes left, and we would like to create a group sacred space where we can kind of tune in. We've been thinking and analyzing. Let's just kind of go into the heart center. The heart center is the main hub of our energy body, and it's opening us to this fifth dimensional field. So if you can have both feet on the floor, let's go ahead and get grounded and start to turn inwards. And just focusing into the flow of energy up and down your body, into the breath, into the heartbeat. We're getting out of the mind, the thinking mind, to starting to feel more into our beautiful hearts, our loving hearts. There we go, everyone's dropping in. And I use vortex energy, so we're creating a spiral of a vortex momentum around us and in the room. Everything manifests and materializes in a vortex spin, so you can imagine that you have a counterclockwise vortex spinning around you. And as we're creating this powerful space, connecting us to the divine, to our soul I am presence in our hearts, we're creating a fertile field. It's a potent field. And we'd like to seed that field with intentions and visions. Seed your future outcomes. So just breathing in. Each one of our panel members are going to connect with you and help you seed in and activate your personal ascension.
Let's take a big deep breath to unite with each other. Breathe in and release. Let's take a big deep breath of divine love. Breathe in. Let it go. Let's take a big deep breath of relaxation. Breathe in and release. Just imagine that there's a beauteous, divine, perfect light, like the sun above your head. This beauteous light is filled with energy, with love, with peace, with joy. This beautiful light radiates and vibrates divinity. Imagine that there's a beautiful ray of light coming down through the top of your head all the way to the tips of your toes, this beautiful ray of light coming down the midline of your body. Then imagine this light beginning to expand and radiate and vibrate, expanding and expanding, becoming more and more bright, more and more radiant, beginning to fill not only the midline of your body, but beginning to fill your entire body. This beauteous divine light, this pure light of love begins to radiate, getting bigger and bigger, beginning to fill your entire body with light. Your body's becoming radiant, radiating, vibrating, perfect, pure love and pure light. And imagine that this light is getting bigger and bigger, and it's encompassing your entire body and your energy field. Your whole body and your energy field is now filled with radiant light, pure light.
So take that light. Take that. These are turned off. Can you hear me? So take that light and now focus it into a channel of love and light. And send that channel like a giant portal of energy, like you might see coming out of a fire hydrant, and send it upward past your throat chakra, your crown chakra, to your higher self. And see that energy of love and light bathe your higher self in your devotion to yourself. And let that connection to your higher self become one with who you are now. And invite that aspect of you that is your higher self to join you and stay with you. And let that fountain of energy, of focused love and light, reach above you, beyond you, filling this space, this room, this facility, this city, the United States, the Earth, the galaxy, solar system, and beyond.
Oh, okay. Sorry. In this field of love, without limit or boundary, which expands throughout the universe, let us send a group call, an invitation to all those benevolent civilizations from beyond our earth who are with us, supporting and energizing and protecting this earth and humanity as we pass through this great evolutionary portal into a life where our consciousness resides in the fifth dimension and above, while also remaining on this earth able to flow smoothly between the highest dimensions and our beautiful life on earth. So that all becomes one.
We're out of time. Okay, Laura.
Anchor your energies deep into the earth with your grounding cord and just open it up so that as you move through all these different levels of your being, you can begin to release anything you're holding on to that creates discomfort, pain, fear, and begin to shine the light on your unconscious self, recognizing that when we recognize our unconscious energies as our multidimensional energies, we won't be operating from a programming or something that's foreign to our system. And as we move through all these different aspects of ourself, and we decide whether or not something needs to go, or something needs to be integrated, or something needs to be transmuted, we get closer to our own internal truth, and we begin to recognize the beauty of all our inner elements. So if we feel anger, we know that there's passion. If we feel toxicity, we know that there's electrical light energy coming directly from spirit to bring that energy into a state of wisdom and love. And as we forgive, we're able to release these energies and begin to move into our heart, where we recognize the need to love and nurture ourselves and free ourselves of any astral entities so that we can integrate the higher heart and allow it to become the blue lotus energy that comes in from the Haros Gamos and our connection to spirit, which is the most important connection we have, that we need not to compromise for the sake of companionship, because we're sacred vessels. And the greatest
Lori?
gift we can give ourselves is that experience.
And so from this seated place where we're all divinely connected, send right now Mother Earth Gaia into your future timeline, our collective future timeline, these things if you agree. Agree, consent, and allow that all humans and all animals and all living beings on planet Earth from this point forward in all time, space, dimensions, and reality shall be treated by one another and toward one another with absolute love, absolute kindness, absolute compassion in the highest and best ways for all concerned. That all animals, plants, and minerals from this point forward and throughout all time and space shall now and forever be treated with this absolute love, kindness, compassion, and oneness and source consciousness aligned with our highest and best selves and our highest and best journey. And in this moment, as you intend this, also intend, if you agree, that all air, all the skies will be absolutely pure and clear, that all the waters of Mother Earth, our sacred Mother Earth, will be absolutely clear and pure, filled with nothing but absolute love and clarity, and that all of the Earth herself, Mother Earth herself, our physical reality, will be absolutely clear and pure with absolute love and consciousness. And all of this shall be done in the most loving, benevolent ways possible, that all malevolent forces will be completely and totally reunited with their God self in love, and all in the highest and best ways. And one last thing, just envision yourself now sitting in front of yourself as an infant and a beautiful, loving being, and just absolutely, as you see yourself, just embrace and love yourself. Just send yourself absolute, pure, unconditional love and acceptance in this now moment, and that this shall be done now and for all the days to come.
Matt?
And to integrate this amazing, miraculous experience, a lot of you know how I like to work. And if you wouldn't mind, please repeat after me. I accept.
I accept
That my Merkaba light body,
that my Merkaba light body,
all crystalline DNA,
all crystalline DNA,
all chakras
chakras,
have already been activated,
already been activated,
awakened and opened,
awakened and opened,
as I fully embody
as I fully embody
the light of my highest self,
the light of my highest self,
consciously abiding here
consciously abiding here
in the fifth dimensional earth plane,
in the fifth dimensional earth plane,
embodying what is awakening
embodying what is awakening,
and giving all the opportunity
giving all the opportunity
to experience the light within themselves,
to experience light within themselves,
that I shine forth for the well-being of all.
that I shine forth for the well-being of all.
And in knowing it is so,
Knowing it is so,
from this moment forward,
this moment forward,
I allow every breath and outcome
I
allow every breath and outcome
to reveal that it is so,
to reveal that it is so,
that I am now,
that I am now.
and so it is.
So it is.
So it is. Take it in, hold it in your sacred space, and take it out into the world. Be the love, be the light, be the joy. We are all one. And so it is. Thank you, panel, for all your contribution. Thank you for everyone for showing up. It was amazing.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Meg.
the expo.
Thank you, Meg.
Thank you. Thank you,
Meg.
everyone.